Wild Health is about optimizing you. We use genomics, blood work, biometrics, microbiome assessment, many other tests, and a conversation with you to come up with a full health optimization plan. What's the perfect diet, exercise, and supplement plan for you and only you? The Wild Health podcast is about optimizing all of us. Here we cover the cutting-edge science that gives you the base to be able to apply the personalized plan we give you as a patient. To sign up as a patient, go to wildhealth.com. Or if you're a physician or health coach and you want to learn how to do this for your patients, we're happy to help as well. Wildhealth.com for all the information on becoming a patient or working with us.
Hey, Michelle, how's it going?
Great. How are you?
I'm amazing. It's the sun's out. It's 70 something degrees in Portland, Oregon, and we were chatting a little bit beforehand. This is the time of the year that makes us want to stay in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, this is a great time to be in Oregon and Washington too. I think they're feeling it because it was a wet winter.
Yeah, it was. It seems like this is the conversation every May or June, or sometimes when we're unlucky, it's July. But we get
Yeah,
we get 3 to 6 months of feeling like it's the best place on earth, and we're entering that season,
yeah,
so things are good.
yeah. Don't take
Um,
that away from me. I look forward to that cycle, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. No, and I always like the dreary, cloudy, drizzly for at least the first 2.5, 3 months of it. It's just when it turns into 7, 8 months that I
Yeah,
start to lose
it's a little
patience.
overboard.
Yeah, yeah.
Totally.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for taking time to sit down with me today. We Health coaching is such a huge part of what we do at Wild Health, and we've touched on it in various ways in the past, on the podcast and in other forum. But I realized that I say I realized as if I had an epiphany. You realized, and I
Yeah.
agreed that we hadn't really spent a podcast talking about what health coaching is, how it's different from traditional healthcare, and some of the nuances and even just background and foundations of health coaching. So I'm just going to start there. What is health coaching?
Cool. Nice. I actually imagined myself doing this and thought he's going to ask me that exact question and just open it wide open. So I love that. Yeah, I did come to you because I thought this was an area where we could do a little bit more education for people who are coming into, wild health or really just into this new sort of way of looking at medicine without really any background about what health coaching is. So I think most people listening to this probably have just experienced health coaching maybe in the last couple of years, and if at all yet, and they're curious, like, what is this all about? And I do find that as I meet with each new patient, everybody sort of acts like they have a little different expectation for what a health coach is, and I see a lot of variability there. So I thought, let's just open up this conversation. So here's a little background. Like, health coaching is fairly new, like within the last 10 years has been developing, but a lot of the concepts of health coaching have been around since like the 1950s with different types of psychology, and health coaching is built off of other areas of like life and business coaching. So there's a lot of overlap there. Um, but I like to think of this new form of health coaching as sort of like a spark in a forest that's sort of this wildfire. So we're waiting to start until the conditions are right. And I think just over the last like maybe 3 years, for reasons we can probably put our finger on, like COVID and our life expectancy going down, it's really starting to explode. Like those conditions are right, and health coaching is sort of a coin phrase tossed around a lot, and you're going to start hearing it a lot more because it's growing rapidly. And for good reason. For people who are fans of like Peter Attia, he's even talking about in his most recent book, Outlive. Have you read this yet, or are you working on it?
Yeah, yeah. It's in my this is
Yeah.
like so wild health of me. It's in my sauna. So it's my
Yeah,
sauna reading. So I haven't finished the whole
totally.
thing because I can't sit in the sauna for 6 hours, but I'm probably about 2/3 of the way done.
Cool. Yeah, I'm about the same. So, but he says something in there that I think really is pertinent to this conversation. He says, that individuals, when it comes to your health, like individuals are no longer just a passenger on the ship of taking care of themselves. They are now, we need to become our own captain. And for some people, they're like, okay, great, I can figure this out. But others, that's kind of a terrifying concept. Like, where do I start? How do I go about being healthy? Where do I get my information? And then most importantly, like, how do I implement those changes?
All right. So, um, what would you say are why don't we start with some misconceptions? Like, what are some misconceptions
Yeah.
when you're meeting with folks that they have about what health coaching is?
Yeah. Okay, great. So I think like a health coach is not a basketball coach. So, a basketball coach is like, working with a team, creating a warm up and training schedule and giving you sort of these ultimatums like, okay, we need to do this and with the goal of achieving something. Whereas, a health coach is definitely more like meeting a client where they're at, um, and then helping just be their partner and not necessarily their guide throughout that, but just really standing side by side as they sort of wrestle with what it means to actually change their behaviors to become healthier. Um, so it's just a little bit of a different spin on that. And another thing is like a health coach is not a teacher. Like we are definitely here, a great resource for information. You bounce ideas off of us. We have like a wealth of resources, so we should be utilized in that way. But we're not here like to give you a test and be like, okay, here are the 5 things that you need to do right away. And I think some people are like, don't want to meet with a health coach sometimes because they're like, oh, they're just going to tell me what I already know and to do all the stuff I don't want to do. And it's like, definitely that's a little bit more the physician visit, honestly.
Ouch.
Ouch, no offense, but the physicians are pretty good at like, here's the problem, here's the solution. And the health coach is like, all right, let's talk about this within the context of your life. How are we going to implement these changes? What does this look like for you day to day in tangible next steps?
Yeah, I love that, and I think I've said for a long time, I'll take your physician dig and absorb it, and I'll send it back to you with love and admiration. I've said for a long time that that the health coaches are really the secret sauce of what we do here, and it's because you could go to a physician 15 years ago. Frankly, you could probably go today to a lot of physicians, and let's say that you're overweight and your body fat composition is too high and it's unhealthy,
Yeah.
right? Maybe you've got some insulin resistance or some prediabetes and your cholesterol panel looks out of whack. And you can get very general advice around eating less, moving more,
Hmm.
cutting this macronutrient down, increasing that macronutrient. Um, and maybe you'll get even more nuanced information about, hey, I want you having this many grams of protein, doing this kind of training schedule. But it's at that point the visit's over, and
Right.
it's like there's this giant void of, well, how do I actually do
Right.
any of that, right? And this is, I think, one reason why lifestyle change has a lot of physicians rolling their eyes because they don't see patients coming back to them having effectively instituted lifestyle changes that are sustainable and really moving the needle on their health. So
Yeah.
talk to me a bit about behavior change, because I think that's always to me been the real missing link. Is I can tell anyone that they should put down the processed food and the Debbie snack cakes and whatever, but how do you
Yeah.
actually work with someone around making sustainable changes in habits and lifestyle so that they can take this advice and turn it into what they actually do with their lives?
Yeah, exactly. So that's where it gets really fun because that's actually where a health coach has their training. So on the job training for a health coach, like at Wild Health, we learn a lot about precision medicine and genomics, but that's not how we get certified as a health coach. That's all training within behavior change models. Um, and so that's really cool because every single one of us is all along different spectrums of change in different areas of our life, like on how much water we drink, how much sleep we get, how much exercise we get, time we spend with family. Like we're all either thinking about changing it, maybe some things we're not even thinking about changing, maybe we're thinking about changing some things, we're actively changing some things, and then some things we just have changed and we're in maintenance and that behavior is just rolling along. So that's sort of like a crude representation of like the trans theoretical model of change that we use a lot. And it's always sort of going in the background for whatever health coach that you're talking to, because they're thinking, is this person contemplating change, or are they already changed and they're just trying to maintain that behavior? We spend most of our time talking about things in people's contemplation phase. That's where like the pros and the cons are kind of like equal, if they've even identified like what all of the pros and cons are. But when it comes to behavior, our current behaviors serve us in some way. So they're there for a reason. And so to just come in and say, okay, you really need to change this, for some people can feel pretty uncomfortable. So a conversation about like, okay, well, how does smoking serve you right now? Well, it offers me a stress release. It gives me something I can, do on my breaks. It helps me feel better. Like, okay, and how do you know that you need to change it? And we can talk back and forth across the lines to a point, and using language that's encouraging and helps people recognize their ability to change. And through that conversation, usually people come to their own conclusion about what they want to improve upon. And so that's really like the magic of it, is just the opportunity to discuss it with somebody who recognizes where you're at, sees you as a human, sees you as an expert in your own life, not as somebody who needs to hear from my expertise, like, but to just have time to spend, together hashing out tough subjects.
Yeah, I mean the amount of overlap with sort of traditional executive coaching is really apparent to me. It's a
Yeah.
lot of active inquiry, letting patients do most of the talking, having avoiding the advice trap, because
Yeah.
the only
Yes.
good thing that comes from giving advice is somebody follows it, doesn't like it, and then blames you for the outcome. So helping people get to
Yeah.
their own motivations and what feels right to them, but doing it in a supportive, inquisitive fashion. Talk to me about the scope of a health coach. And I know that this is something that probably varies in different practice settings, but either misconceptions or assumptions around health coach scope. And if I'm a patient and I come to you and you're my health coach, and I say, yeah, hey, I've got this brand new pain in my flank. What does that look like for a health coach?
Totally. Yeah, this is a conversation we try to have at our very first our very first meeting as a health coach, our initial consult, just so that it's clear, because not everybody knows, right? This is new. So, a health coach, the scope of a health coach is really not to give any medical advice. We can't even recommend like supplements, and oftentimes people come to that visit, a visit wanting really to talk about supplements because they're available over the counter, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that really is medical information that needs to come from a physician. So our scope of practice is to help people with behavior change modification, to talk to people about, we can talk about information and definitely like even, trends on a glucose monitor. We can help coach people on sleeping and like, some things that they kind of already know they need to change, but like don't know how to get there. We can give them, really great resources and tools and education when they ask for it. It's like, would you like to know more about this? Yes, let me know. Tell me what you know. And then we can open up and really add a lot more information, but definitely not prescriptive in any way or here to override any other medical expertise.
So I have to actually answer those messages and calls. I just can't
Yeah.
forward them to you. Okay, good to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So
then
that's where you get those from.
and then what about certification? This is something that is sort of crept into the field of health coaching over the last several years. What does it mean to be a board certified health coach?
Yeah, so you have to go through a board certification program and you have to pass a board exam in order to be nationally board certified. So we do offer that course through Wild Health, and it operates biannually. So For people who are interested, here's a little plug for that. You can still sign up right up until the end of June for a course that starts in July. If this is calling to you and you're like, health coaching is for me, I want to do that. And really, we spend most of our time talking about different models, like, the psychology models I was talking about, trans theoretical model of change. We talk about motivational interviewing, strength based coaching. We do some training on nonviolent communication and appreciative inquiry. There's all sorts of really good stuff in there. We also talk about, mindfulness and ways to help, people achieve sort of that mindful state. So there's really a lot to it. You get a lot of skills that I didn't have prior to that because I was coming to this job as a nurse, trained in nursing. So that was a very different training and background. And it really, I felt like, just enriched my ability to help people improve their health and to find that behavior change that they were looking for.
Awesome. Thank you. And, I definitely want to give you an opportunity to touch on anything that I didn't think to ask you about health coaching, but maybe before we get free reign for Michele, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit here, but can you describe like a wildly, pun intended, successful journey for a patient that was impacted by your work as a coach?
Hmm. Wow, that's a great question. I hope to have had an impact on a lot of patients. I've, been here with Wild Health since February of 2022, so over a year now. And so I've seen people go through like an entire year journey. Um, I do have one current patient who's still, he's still actively improving on, working on improving his health, but really came to us with a lot of chronic disease and on a laundry list of medication, and had a realization. His brother had found Wild Health and really encouraged him to do it. And it's just like such a different way of approaching his health than he had gotten from going to traditional doctors. And so instead of just all the medications he was taking, he recognized his health wasn't getting better and he wanted more. Like, he wanted to grow and he wanted to improve. So he was willing to take our advice. And I mean, he is diabetic, type 2 diabetic, but his A1C went from the sevens into like 5.7, like truly to basically where he wasn't really diabetic anymore. I mean, he's still using some medication that goes up and down, but he's making so much progress just by doing what we're doing. We're beating the drum of like exercise, nutrition, getting more sleep, reducing stress. And he just is one of those patients who shows up and does the work. So I don't know if I would never want to take the credit because truly he's doing all the work. But I do think our interaction and our ability to meet on a regular basis, he's so good about being every month patient. He shows up and we talk, whether it's been successful or not. Like, maybe nothing's changed that month. He still shows up and we talk about that and what that feels like, because the path from where you are now to where you want to be is never a straight line. And so I do often get patients that are like, I really wasn't looking forward to this call today because I haven't done anything that we talked about last time. And I'm like, great, let's talk about that. Like, what happened? And, have you, had a change in direction? Maybe we need to refocus. Maybe this isn't right for you. Like, let's look at the behavior there and the routine and the habit. Why is it hard to move? Maybe there's still something serving you there. Let's look at it clearly. So he's a fantastic guy, and I really look forward to seeing him just sort of, slowly peel off one medication at a time and get to live a better life that I know he's dreaming of.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think the maybe one thing we didn't touch on. I said I was going to turn it over to you, but you know me. I've always got one more thing. The is the accountability aspect of coaching, and
Yeah.
I'll give a little shout out to Nate Berry, who's my coach at Wild Health in my role as a patient
Nice.
at Wild Health, and I so love having somebody bugging me about, hey, did you get your repeat labs drawn, and how's this workout thing that we were working on going, and we're going to meet in 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh man, I got to meet with Nate. I better get my my action together so I can report
Yeah.
back and say I'm doing the things that I committed to doing. And yeah, not every one of those is a wow, look at all the amazing progress that's been made. Some of them are, but it's the accountability itself. It's just knowing that you've got sort of a partner in crime who you're gonna
Yeah.
touch base with regularly, and it's we know about the value of accountability when people make resolutions of any kind, that one of the most powerful things you can do is tell your friends and family about it. Or even
Yeah.
you hear those really fun extreme examples where a dad says he's gonna start working out 5 times a week, and he tells his kids that if he doesn't, then he's gonna buy them a new PlayStation at the end of the year. So like
Yes.
some sort of hook to keep you engaged and keep you accountable. I think health coaching definitely serves that purpose for me personally. All right, I'm going to honor
Definitely.
my original statement. What else about health coaching do you want to share with the listeners that we haven't touched on?
Yeah, well, I didn't really tell like you what health coaching is still. Like what would you get out of a wild health coach? So let's talk about that because the accountability is definitely a piece of it. And I don't want to negate that by saying like we're not testing you because we are paying attention, and so just having other people there paying attention to your health journey is definitely an accountability. So we can be a great resource for information. So anything that's in your personalized health report and all of those genomics and genetic SNPs that we look at, like we have gone through those health reports through and through, and anything you've already been presented and discussed with a physician, we can go into further detail and really give people a more like analytics on that and just get deeper into it. Um, and then even other things like a resource for like what is Wild Health stance on, sauna use and all, others are the lifestyle recommendations, like how long should I cold plunge and what should my macros be and how do I get there? It's just like when you're ready to really tear up each little piece of, your health report and turn it into something that you actually do. We're here for that. So we really do look forward to that once people are ready for the change. We have to get there first, but once you're ready, it's like, okay, like the chains are off. Let's go for this. This will be super fun. But let's also try to focus on sustainable change because I know a lot of people get excited and are like, okay, I'm ready to do every single one of these things. I'm like, let's think about 5 years from now. Like, how much of this do you think you can keep up? Because we don't want to do like, just a bunch of short-term changes and then have it fizzle out. Like, we really want to change that foundation of it being your identity and it being a part of your everyday routine. Um, so we talk about all those factors in these visits too. So there's really a lot that a health coach has to offer in terms of your journey with wild health. Um, so that's definitely one thought.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I can't explain enough or emphasize enough how you know Carl, who's my doctor, he's all right. He's great. I like him.
Yeah.
But in terms of taking information from my health report and my lab results and genetics and putting them into daily practice in a way that's
Yes.
both effective and sustainable, and also just doesn't feel like that much work. That's where
Yeah.
coaching has really
Totally.
moved the needle for me, because that's something um, I think I love the last thing you said around fizzling out and where you see yourself in 5 years. I think when I'm working, even working with health coaches as a provider, not just in with as a patient role, but working with coaches as a physician, it's really changed my traditional Western medical approach of
Mm.
here's a problem list to here's the top 3 problems. Right. There's other problems, right? We're going to get to the other
Yeah.
problems. But if we can really focus on a manageable number of problems and creating real effective change around those, then we work down to the problems that aren't as big of a deal. And
Yes.
the way I think the other way that health coaching has informed my practice is that list of 2 or 3 problems, usually 3, is always going to include the number one problem for the patient. So if the patient's coming to me, and I chatted about this earlier with some of our the folks in our training program, I will always ask early on, it's 6 to 12 months from now, you've been working with Wild Health, you look back and say, this was the best decision I ever made because of this. What is that thing? And that thing can
Mm-hmm.
vary tremendously from patient to patient, but that thing is always going to be one of the 3 goals and objectives that we have. And the other 2 may be stuff that I found out about your labs, or stuff that, you've got an ApoE4 or 2
Yeah.
ApoE4 alleles. We want to do work
Yeah.
around dementia prevention. Like there's lots of medical stuff I could throw into that problem list. But in terms of meeting a patient where they are, and deciding what's most important to them, what they're most motivated to work on, it's sort of soft motivational interviewing is what it really is. And I
Yeah.
totally stole that from our coaching team. So it's you're not just changing patient lives, you're changing provider approaches to working with patients.
Oh,
So
that's so cool. Yeah.
it's really
That's,
cool.
yeah, that's how you do it. I mean, I like to think of it in that way, is that, Carl's role, is to really tell you all these really interesting things about yourself and give you all of these genetic data and talk to you about your labs, and then we really can run every test that exists out there on you. And it's really interesting information, but it's just information unless it changes your behavior. So if we're going to do something about it, like some people can manage a little bit of that, but most people have something that they kind of hang over here on the edge that they kind of don't want to change, and they know they need to, and they want to talk to somebody about it. So that's where we come in and kind of help people line this out. I love the top 3 thing. I usually say the same thing. I'm like, okay, you're probably overwhelmed from your medical consult. Let's just boil this down into like 3 action items that you feel like you can walk away from this visit today and go do something about. There's sort of a magic number and change when it comes to humans. We can do like 3 things at once.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of boils over from adult education theory, where I spent a lot of time in my career, which is, the number of like things you can really even hold in your mind cognitively at once to work on. And one, if you're going to give a lecture to someone and expect them to take home 6 points, you're not going to be successful. We're
Yeah.
really good at about 3 to 4, and then we just kind of cap at that point. So I think, being cognizant of that, it's not surprising that that's where you're seeing success with folks, is saying, hey, here, what are our 3 action items for today? And I love that it's practical, and it feels like, approachable and achievable, and all of the sort of positive mindset attributes that we want in someone coming away from a coaching call. It's really,
Yeah.
really great. Awesome. Well, Michele, as always, like, I learn things every time we talk to each other, and I enjoy it greatly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for bringing this topic and bringing your expertise. And please bring more topics, because it'll give us a chance to get back on the podcast together.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks for taking time to talk to me about this today. It was a lot of fun, like usual.
Absolutely. Take care of yourself.
Okay, you too.
Thanks so much for listening to the Wild Health Podcast. If you're a Wild Health patient, you might not know, but you have access to our referral program. This gets your friends and family 25% off Wild Health services. Just head to Clarity, and in the top right corner, you'll see Refer a Friend. Click there, and you'll be brought to a page with your referral code. Happy sharing.